You've tuned into another edition of The Break Room, a weekly conversation about how the City of St. Augustine works from those who do the work every day. Hosted by the City of St. Augustine's Communications Director, Melissa Wissel, The Break Room offers a closer look at the different city departments and provides updates on current and upcoming projects and events. And now, your host, Melissa Wissel.
Welcome to The Break Room. Thanks for stopping by. I'm Melissa Wissel, Communications Director for the City of St. Augustine. This week, returning to The Break Room, I've invited the city's Land Management Coordinator, J.B. Miller, to join me. We're going to talk about Fish Island, all the great things that are happening over there. J.B., welcome back to The Break Room.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Very quick update, first and foremost, before we get into talking about the property and all the great stuff going on. I do want to mention we are still in talks, if you will, about determining a logo. We've gotten public input. We're still in the conversation pieces, so we don't have any answers on that today.
Correct.
Okay, so inquiring minds are still going to have to wait.
We had our first public meeting, and we still have a little ways to go.
Okay. In the meantime, there's still lots happening at Fish Island. You go out there almost every day or a couple times a week.
Many times a week, yes. And doing lots of different things. And we are in the process of designing the interpretive panels right now. They've been written. The contractor who has been hired by the city to design them will be coming up with a bunch of different things for us to look at soon, color schemes and things like that, which will have something to do with the logo as well.
Okay.
And so we're going to have 7 or 8 interpretive panels out there that will range from everything but birds, common birds, to of course the history, both the prehistoric history as well as the Jesse Fish historic history and slavery and maritime hammock and salt marsh and all sorts of things. And what we're kind of looking forward to be able to doing is the panels will be like 3 foot by 2 foot.
Okay.
And they'll be just kind of sitting there. And they'll have all kinds of information. And we're also going to have QR codes that we will put on the panels that will link back to additional information that will be housed on one of the city servers, so people will be able to dig in a little more if they so choose. Panels are normally limited in terms of how many words you put on them, and
right.
Just because you want to catch people's attention and let them learn a little bit, and if they want to learn more.
Because there's so much history.
There is so much history.
I mean, where do you begin? I say that rhetorically and literally. Where do you begin? You mentioned prehistoric history. I was just thinking Jesse Fish history.
No, 4,000 years before present, there were people living out there. So yeah, there's a lot of history. And of course, all the natural resources out there. Most people, I don't know about most people, many people that go out there, all they want to do is have a beautiful walk. And they have a beautiful green space in order to do that, or ride their bicycle on the trails. That's wonderful. So I think most people have a mental image of the property as beautiful hammocks and gorgeous salt marshes surrounding the area. Those are the types of things I think most people think about when they think about Fish Island. But it's nice that you can tell the entire story. It's always fun when you're out there to tell people, wow, see these giant live oaks. Well, 150 years ago, those were orange trees.
Wow.
And so the area has changed dramatically in the last couple hundred years.
And you mentioned going for walks and riding bicycles. I can ride a bicycle on those trails. They're wide.
They're wide, but I would suggest maybe fatter tires.
Okay.
but yes, they are.
But no motorized.
No motorized vehicles. There's a gate across there and then a walk through, and you could take your bicycle through.
Okay.
And obviously the property's open. I guess we should have said that first.
Right.
It's been open for a while. We have an info board right inside the gate right now. It doesn't have anything on it because it just got put up this last week. The panels I printed some, so we should have stuff in there within a week or two. That'll say, you are here, and here are the trails, and here's what you can, go. The interpretive panels themselves won't be up for a while. The vendor said it's going to take them 6 or something months just once we order them to get them back.
And you're talking, when you say interpretive panels, that's like if I go to any type of a park and I come up to a point where there's a panel or a display board that shows history. There'll be photos on them, a little bit of narrative. Are you writing the narrative?
With help from other people, but yes.
Okay.
I'm ultimately responsible for it, but yes. And I've asked for, like for instance, the cultural resources portion I've been working with the Florida Public Archaeology Network and others to help make sure that the content is indeed accurate.
Right.
And I wrote all the natural history parts.
You've been doing this type of business, if you will, all your life.
Most of my adult life, yeah, I've written hundreds, if not thousands, of interpretive panels.
Do we have some interesting birds, trees, anything that really like jumps out at you that you, when you go out there, you're like, I can't believe this is here, or just I'm so glad to see this?
Well, I think it's most importantly, it's just a beautiful 59 acres of green space in the city.
Right.
And there's nothing like it in the city that's truly a green natural area. Right. The fact that you could be in there in the summertime, the mosquitoes might be chasing you, but you're out there in the summertime, and as soon as you step into that hammock, temperature drops 5-6 degrees. Again, you're gonna probably keep on walking pretty quickly because of the mosquitoes. But in the non-mosquito season, it's very beautiful out there.
We've done some cleanup projects with Matanzas Riverkeeper. Mm-hmm. They've been very successful.
Hugely
Lots of debris. We do have some other issues that we're mitigating, but it is a very pristine by would you say?
I wouldn't use it. Well, I personally wouldn't use it for pristine as a biologist.
Very good. Very good.
But it is, considering where it is and its past uses, it's a pretty beautiful place. Yeah, the two cleanups have been pretty substantial. The numbers of volunteers, the city can't begin to thank these people. And actually, the last one we did in January, weather wasn't all that great, and we still had over 100 people show up, and they cleaned up 3,500 pounds of trash, which is just pretty incredible.
That's a lot of trash.
And it is, it is. And so when you're out there, it's wonderful because most of the time you don't see much trash.
Right.
Especially after the big cleanup.
Well, and you mentioned the volunteers and the community support behind the property. So it's great to see that it hasn't waned since, we saved it, since it has been named and by the state or reserved by the state as a nature preserve, that the support and the community participation is still out there strong.
Oh, it's very strong. Yeah.
If you're just now tuning in, you're listening to The Break Room. I'm Melissa Whistle, Communications Director for the city, and I have the pleasure of speaking this week with J.B. Miller. He is the city's Land Management Coordinator, talking about Fish Island. Anything else before we move on to a new topic?
No, just
it's open.
It's open, and I ask people to be patient because there's only me. Mm-hmm. Whenever we do anything, I have to ask for help from other parts of the city staff, which is everybody's been generous with their time, but it's still, there's a lot going on with a lot of people. So as an example, the grounds maintenance folks, obviously they're unbelievably busy, and they're just, during certain times of the year, like Nights of Lights, they're so busy that I can't get their help because
they're busy for Nights of Lights.
We're just a lower priority.
Right.
And I understand that. But so, I'm hoping maybe by the end of the year, we should have, the end of this calendar year, we should probably have the panels up. If we're lucky, it'll be soon.
And there's parking there, so I don't have to just walk there or ride my bike there. I can park there.
There is parking there.
Okay. Other projects that you're working on, I don't know if we've talked about it before on this show, but you're also working on a project, I think most locals would refer to it as Bird Island. It's the little land mass there just to the north of the cross, just south of the Volano Bridge.
Northeast of the fort, right?
The fort.
Mm-hmm.
Julia's Island or Bird Island. Tell me about that.
Locally, it is called Bird Island by most folks. The Florida Fish and FWC, Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. Big old name.
Something like that. I like FWC.
FWC, yeah. FWC is working with the city. The city owns the island, and it's a relatively small island. Most people know it because they pull their boats up on the sandbar that is actually to the north of the main part of the island because it's a beautiful place. But it just so happens that it's an extremely important bird nesting area, both seabirds and shorebirds, and it's highly significant. It's the second largest least tern colony in the county. It also has American oyster catchers. That population that's there up into the Talamata River is the most significant in Florida. There's quite a number of nests there, and it's a fairly rare bird. and they're single nesters, the oyster catchers. In fact, if there's another oyster catcher nest too close, they fight.
Really?
So they space themselves out. Unlike the least terns, which clump, and they help each other defend from predators. Anyway, so that area, and unfortunately, those type of colonies don't do well with
boats.
Well, people that perfectly not being mean want to go up there and see it.
Right.
And it doesn't take very much, unfortunately, for those birds they will actually at some point abandon the eggs and or the chicks if they get disturbed too much. Like if the dogs are running through a bunch or people are walking through, whatever it happens to be. So we're about to post the island at the end of this month. So until the last birds hatch, it will be posted, and you'll see city no trespassing signs and FWC signs. And we ask that people please stay out of there and observe, from afar. Hopefully you'll have binoculars and you can see the birds. It's too bad that we can't have people coming in closer,
right.
But we can't.
And so just again to remind folks as you're listening, if you do get out on that water, there's an above ground part of the island that we can see as we drive by in any tide. There is a section closer up towards Volano, through the Volano Bridge, that is underwater in the high tides, and that's where all the boats like to beach. So we're not saying not to go there. We're just asking that beachy part, that real islandy part, that's that first piece that you approach as you're coming off the fort. Stay away from that, and that's where you're going to see those signs.
Yeah, and they'll be posted. There'll be signs every 300 feet, which is what the Florida statute requires. And so it'll be very obvious. And most people, of course, comply well.
Good.
But again, it doesn't take much disturbance for those birds they literally will leave and just leave the eggs and or chicks. And we don't want that to happen.
And you were mentioning in terms of the nests, and we'll have to wrap up, but when you and I were talking about it, these aren't nests like they put in the shrubs, or they're not in the tree. They're literally on the ground. So that's
right. These are ground nesting birds. They put a scrape in. They literally make a scrape in the sand and put the eggs right in the sand. Obviously, they incubate, sit on top of the eggs. The eggs are so cryptic, so hard to see, that even trained eyes, if they're not really careful, could step on eggs and or chicks. They're they just blend in so well. It's incredible. Now, the least terns themselves, you would probably know if you were approaching the least tern colony, because they will start dive bombing you.
Oh.
They'll come right up, off, and then actually try and scare away predators that way by dive bombing them. They actually could hit you. And they will definitely poop on you if given the opportunity. So it's another reason why one should stay away from that area. But it's a beautiful island, and of course, most of the year it's available to the public to enjoy. We just ask that people please adhere to the rules, and from April to about July is when the last chicks are hatched and leaving. So
come on out and walk all over Fish Island, and come on out and just ride on by Julia's Island, and don't walk on there
during April
through
July, and enjoy the beautiful sandbar to the north, because it is gorgeous.
It is beautiful.
So yeah.
Well, we covered a lot of ground. Thank you for stopping by. We're out of time.
All right.
We'll have you come back again.
All right.
As we wrap up another edition of The Break Room, I hope we answered your questions about Fish Island and Julia's Island. If we didn't, take a minute. You can rewatch this broadcast on our website at CityStAugRadio.com. We want to keep you informed about what's happening in and around the city, and that you hear from the people doing the work and making it happen every day. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time.
You've been listening to The Break Room, a weekly program addressing projects and programs offered by the City of St. Augustine. Join us each week as the city's communications director, Melissa Wissel, has in-depth conversations with the people who make our town work to meet the needs of our community. The Break Room is produced by communications specialist for the City of St. Augustine, Cindy Walker. See you at this time next week for another edition of The Break Room.